Good morning, everybody. I'm here. I am running the show by myself today, and I had just a couple problems, but I think we've got it going now. All right. And a couple cats to join me too. It's not just whole and none, it's hold and a couple bits extra. We got to be careful with this one, right? We don't want her turning the show off. So welcome. We have been working on balance and the senses and how those things go together. Um, Vestibular sense is where we started. That's your earliest sense that you develop in the womb. I don't remember if I said this, but I love this fun little fact that you have to develop your vestibular sense in the womb because you have to turn upside down to come out the vaginal canal. And that's one of the reasons you have it so early on, or one of the things you do with it so early on, is go upside down to come out and be born, which works pretty well for most babies, but for some babies it doesn't always work that great. But that's that sense that helps you do that. So that's your earliest developed sense. And then vision, we've worked on the last couple days, or the last class and this class. Um, because vision is so important for many of us to maintain balance. Sometimes a little too important. So it's also really interesting to take the vision away, see if you can depend on other senses, vestibular and beyond, kinesthetic, a little bit to the outer ear even. Um, but yeah, like how are you using your vision? And peripheral vision, I think, is another really important part of balance that we say, oh, vision is a important point of balance. Like I'm going to look at something and stare at something and then I'll hold my balance. And maybe you've tried that and maybe it's worked because that does sometimes work pretty well. But one of the things I feel is when I open up to my peripheral vision a little bit more, it actually makes me feel like my vestibular sense turns on a little more, like gets a little keener. Something about that like backed off way of seeing and not trying to focus in so clearly on something puts me in my body in a different way and feels like it's a less, it balances the tension of like trying to hold on with like just finding the balance, right? That's a great phrase. We're not like achieving the balance or like holding the balance, although you hear that sometimes, but like finding the balance, like it's there. I just need to find it, right? I need to go in and find it. So, anyway, that's just a little spiel to start. I would like to start with some of the things Scott was playing with the thumbs last week, and then maybe building on that and continuing some work with focusing and playing a little back and forth with focusing and working with peripheral senses. So you could do this standing. Um, yeah, let's come up to standing. But if standing is not great for you, just sit in a chair, I think, to do these next exercises. So let's come up to standing. So parallel feet in front of you. And we'll start with one thumb out in front of you. So hitchhiker thumb, thumbs up thumb. Looking at your thumbnail, the top of your thumb, and just focusing in on that first. And then not focusing on that and looking at the space behind and feeling that. And then going back in and focusing on the thumb. And then not putting the thumb in view. Like just letting either looking at the back wall, on the wall in front of you, or just kind of thinking into that peripheral space, like just not really focusing on anything. One more time, focusing in on the thumb, and then letting that go, focusing on everything but the thumb. And then finding the thumb one more time, and then slowly start to bring the thumb in and keep your focus on it. And notice when the vision starts to go double, maybe your eyes start to cross a little bit, maybe it gets a little blurry. But just see how far it can go, and it could go all the way to the nose and then all the way back out. And then take that arm down and look around. And then we'll do the same thing with the other arm out in front of you. Move your feet around. So we go back and forth. That hitchhiker thumb first, and then take a look at the thumb and let the vision behind the thumb go double or blur or whatever it does for you. Notice your breath as you do it. Does your breath get a little more tense to do this? Does it need to? And then looking at the wall behind the thumb, we're allowing a little more peripheral vision to come in. And then looking back at the thumb. And then release that. And one more. And focusing away from the thumb. And then one more time into the thumb. And keep your focus on the thumb. So bring it all the way in. And all the way out. And then take that down. Maybe look around a little bit. Scott was talking about looking for Easter eggs in the trees last week as one of his iconic childhood stories, which I always defend and say, well, birds lay eggs in nests in trees. It actually is very logical to look up for Easter eggs that they would be in the trees. I feel like he was being a little too logical in that moment when he was searching for Easter eggs up in the trees. Anyway, look around for Easter eggs in the trees. And then we're going to come down to the mat again and play with some of that same stuff in different movement. All right. So we'll start on your back now, lying on your back, knees bent and feet flat. And then take both thumbs out in front of you. So you make a little fist together, basically bump your fists together, looking at the thumbs. And then we're just going to do a little rolling onto your side. So you're going to follow your two thumbs with your arms to roll over onto your side and the hands on the floor. Now, if you need a little pillow under your head, if you want to take the one thumb away and to take the hand under your head, you can do that here. It's probably a good idea so it doesn't hurt your neck too much. And then we'll follow the one thumb up and over to the ceiling. And then just keep following it around into a twist so it's on the floor behind you. And then take that same thing back up. And back to where you started. And we're going to take that 3 times. So notice your breath as you do it. Let your vision follow your hand, and then see if you can allow your body to just follow however it does, however it sequences. So maybe your arm gets ahead of your rib cage, maybe your rib cage gets ahead of your arm. But let your focus stay with the thumb. And then keep checking in with your breathing. And then just kind of settle back onto your side. So we're going to take kind of a similar movement. We're going to end in the same place, but we're going to start a little differently. So we're going to keep both hands out. And now without the thumb, without the hitchhiker thumb, we're just going to trace your fingers up and overhead. And you're going to see if you can follow your fingers with your vision all the way around to open. Now you probably lose it at a certain point. I kind of lost my fingers at a certain point. But see how long, like what do you need to do to look at the fingers, take you around? So we talked a lot about how little kids do this all the time. It's one of the ways they develop their vestibular system, but just sort of everything. Like you see a little kid and they just like try to look at something as long as they can and they try to find it again. So there's that moment where you can't really look at your fingers anymore and you have to kind of turn your head and find them on the other side to take it around. And same thing on the way back, you can follow it a certain amount. Maybe you have to move your head a little, then you have to flip your head around to find it the other way. One more time. And then back down. And then come back onto your back. Take your two hitchhiker thumbs again. Bring them up onto your back. Take your arms open. And then just close your eyes for a moment. Let your body settle. Maybe feel the difference between the two sides. There might be a little difference between the two sides of the body. And then we'll take the other side. Now I'm going to get up and flip the other direction. So if you're watching, you can see a little better. You can stay like you are. If you want to be able to look at your screen, you can flip the other direction too. And then, yeah, if your neck doesn't feel so good, I really would suggest like a blanket or something to put your head on as you go into this, once you go into your side. So go ahead and take a moment to do that if that you think that might work for you. All right, so two thumbs are up, fist bump together. Follow them over onto your side. And then relaxing your neck and head into this position. Find your breath. And then starting with the thumb first, following your thumb with your vision, with your head. However far open, maybe all the way to behind you on the floor. And then follow it back up. And over 3 times we're going to do this. Notice if your breath gets tight. Notice if this side's a little different than the other side. Mine feels very different on this side. My arm keeps wanting to move past what I am seeing. Maybe that's true for you, it's different, or maybe not. But for a lot of us, The eyes are a little different side to side. The vision overall is a little different. All right, and then version 2. Now, don't strain your neck, right? But let your body problem solve. So really keep it in the vision. Start with the fingers. Like maybe you have to lift your head a little bit to see the fingers. You don't have to keep it flat on the mat. See how long you can follow the fingers up. And you might just go that far and then come back. Maybe you don't want to do the flip. That would be just fine too. But then right at that point where you're like, yeah, it's really as far as my neck wants to go or my shoulder wants to go, then just like drop your head down and look around the other way to see it on the backside. And then however long you keep it on the backside, maybe your fingers come off the floor. If they come off the floor, you might be able to follow them the whole time. So that's an option too. Maybe they stay on the floor. If that's the case, you kind of have to kind of flip around. Play around with it a little bit. See what works for you. And then once you finish your third one, double fist, back up to the ceiling, and then just kind of settle in. You can do hands on your belly or wherever they're comfortable and observe how things feel there. Now we'll just stay in the same position, knees bent and feet flat. Take your palms together and rub them together. Create a little heat there. And then cup the hands out, right? Little cups. And then cup them over your eyes. And feel your breath with the hands over the eyes. See if you can relax your eyeballs. All the muscles around the eyes, the smooth muscle of the eye, but also the ocular muscles around the eye. Maybe a little bit around your face, relaxing. And then you can keep your hands over your eyes if you like the way that feels, or you could take your hands away if you want to just let your arms rest. And then we'll do a little bit of what we did last week with the eyes closed, moving the eye around as if you were looking around your room. So you look over to the corner of the ceiling on the right, the corner of the ceiling on the left. You look straight up, kind of look up and back, down towards your belly. You're leaving the eyes closed, but you're just kind of gently moving the eyeball around with a closed eye. Really sort of relaxed flow of movement, just in any direction. Might be an imagined movement of the eyeball or a felt movement of the eyeball. Either one is actually really useful because imagination and nervous system go together well. Just like kind of warming up, stretching out your eyes. And then softly let your eyes open and just take in the space in front of you. I'm going to take your hands behind your head, elbows a little lifted off the mat, heavy eyeballs, like you're letting the image come into the back of your eye. It's just pouring in, all the light pouring into the back of the eye. Really relaxed, really broad focus. Take a breath in. And then as you exhale, just again, let your eyes kind of lead you forward, down the length of the ceiling, the top of the wall in front of you, a little lower and in between your legs until your head's up, looking between the legs. And then as you come down, same thing, paint along the ceiling, along the front wall and then along the ceiling. Follow that arc. Breathing in, letting your vision lead you. It's kind of just like we did with the thumb, you just don't have the thumb to focus on. And two more, breathing in. Exhale, eyes start the movement. Head lifts the head to support that vision movement. Last time. And then relaxing your arms down. And then however you like, making your way up to sitting. Let's take one leg out in front of you, the other knee bent. Round spine position, curling the hips under. Hands holding onto the back of the leg. Now, so often we're just like looking down, and sometimes they even say like look down into your belly, right? We're gonna give our vision a little more variety today. So start by looking out in front of you, and then feel what it's like as you round your spine. If you change your focus just a little bit towards the floor, maybe towards the toes of the opposite foot, but notice how that affects your upper back and your neck, right? So it's the same thing we just did, right? If you come up to sitting, if you think about that mini crunch, it's like you followed your vision until your upper spine was round. So follow it down to look the toes of the straight leg, maybe. And then as you start to tip back, like just don't hold it at any one spot. Let it start to travel. So it actually starts to come back up to the wall, mid wall, top of the wall, ceiling, and ceiling right above you. And then coming up, see if you can do that same thing, following the vision along the ceiling, pressing your leg forward. Exhale, follow it along the wall till it gets to the floor, till it gets to your foot. Now don't get too tense about it. Just don't ignore your sight line. and let your sight line have that arc to it, right? Might jump a little bit, might be smooth at some points. You don't have to force yourself to look at the ceiling. You just end up there. And coming up. Okay, we're going to switch to the other leg. And maybe you notice this is kind of a trick to slow you down as well, right? A lot of times we rush through this, like push through this. It's really hard to do that and keep watching everything. Um, Getting the senses integrated into the movement often makes the movement more doable. It's just a little slow. So patience. So here, that's good for you. A little bit of patience. So vision drops down a little bit. That rounds the upper back. And then you let it glide along the floor as you tip backwards. It's at the bottom of the wall. It's at the mid wall. It's at the top wall. It's at the far edge of the ceiling. And then it travels along the ceiling to right above you. It takes that same arc back. And one more. And then all the way up. I forgot. I got lost. I was going to just keep doing it. All right. So let's do some leg circles, some single leg circles. Back on your back. And let's try it with your eyes closed. So we're beginning to take the visual sense away and play with the visual sense being taken away. And even though you might think, well, I'm just lying on my back, it's fine. Single leg circles is really an introduction to standing on one leg, like trying to get the posture set up while you're supine, lying on the floor, so that when you stand, the muscles know how to activate there. So we're going to start playing with balancing with the eyes closed by lying on your back and doing it, right? So see what that's like for you to just let your eyes be closed but not absent, right? You're still like very in your body. They're still very relaxed. Maybe they even just like have a sense of sight in the sense that your eyes still see darkness. Maybe they see a little bit of spots and stuff when they're closed. So you find that. I'm going to take the right leg in and hold the back of your thigh. And we're going to do this little bend and stretch we often do. So you inhale and stretch your leg up towards the ceiling. And to exhale and bend your knee down. Take that a couple times. You might even notice that tightness runs through the body. Like sometimes when my hip gets tight, I feel my breath get tight, and I actually feel my eyes get tight, especially if they're closed. I'm just more aware of that. So they could also all relax together. And taking your hands away, they come by your side. We start into leg circles, inhaling over, across the body, exhale around and up. So if you have the right leg up, the leg goes over to the left. Exhale, around and up. That's easy. Keeping the standing leg straight, the left leg on the floor stays steady. Eyes stay relaxed. And take the reverse. Three more. Keep it a little slower. And then take that leg down. Take a moment and open your eyes. You get to break by opening your eyes. All right, let's try the other side. So soft, aware eyes. Sometimes closing your eyes, it's like you shift right into like thinking and you're like out of your body. Can you close your eyes and stay in your body? And if not, maybe you open your eyes a little bit. That feels a little better. Holding the back of the left leg up and down. Inhale, stretch. Exhale, bend. And taking it up, staying there. Hands come by your side. And inhale, left leg goes to the right. Exhale, it goes around and up. Standing on the right leg, not letting that leg move. Just the left leg moves. And then reverse it. Inhale, right leg stays still. So left leg moves open and across. One more. And then taking that leg down. Take a moment with both legs on the floor. Find your breath again. And then bringing yourself up to sitting. All right, so let's come up to standing and play with the balance a little bit more. All right, so feet wide apart. We'll go with a mirror. If you're mirroring me, right toes in, left toes out. And then let's just start. Exhale, bend. Inhale, straighten. And exhale, bend. And inhale, straighten. Now notice your tendency. Do you stare at the screen and really, really watch as you do the movement? Do you kind of look down and just try to listen? Do you look around, talk to somebody else in the room? All those things are just fine possibilities. Just be a little aware of it. Like, Is it creating tension? Is it going with the movement, or is it taking you out of the movement, right? Is what you're observing taking you out into something else, or can it just sort of settle you in with what you're doing? Bending the left knee and staying there. And then float the arms out, or prayer pose if that feels better. Now, just soft focus. Let's go to that soft peripheral vision kind of awareness as you let your gaze rotate around towards your left side. And just play with the peripheral vision in this exercise, having some awareness with the stuff on the sides. And then up to standing. And back to the front. Left toes turn in, right toes turn out. Being aware of how you're seeing and how it draws you into your body or out of your body as you bend and straighten here. And then bending your right knee, staying there. Hands either in prayer pose or reaching out. And then just a soft, aware of your peripheral vision idea as you rotate and you see your way around. Take in the room until you're looking over your right shoulder. And then just keeping that sense of awareness of the whole space. Does that light peripheral vision feel? And then up. And right toes in, left toes out. We're going to bend your left knee. And then shift either hand on the knee or elbow on the knee. That's up to you. So let's go into a little more focus. Taking the hand out in front of you, you can make the thumb again if you like the thumb. It just gives you a really good focal point. Or you could just look at your whole hand if you wanted to leave it flat. And then follow the hand up, however far, to the ceiling at most, but maybe a little less. Let your vision follow that up and have a sense of the hand there without tightening to focus, right? Easy awareness. And then leave the hand where it is and just let your vision trace forward. And then let it trace around the room down towards the floor, towards your knee, towards your foot. And then back to center and back up to standing. Left toes turn in, right toes turn out. Bending your right knee. Pelvis shifts, elbow or hand, opposite arm in front of you. Take a look at the hand, find your focal point there, and then really let your focus stay with the hand as it comes up, and then let it come wherever it comes. Maybe it stops because your neck feels a little funky and you don't want to go any farther. Just leave the hand there. Or maybe the shoulder doesn't want to go any farther. Or maybe it goes all the way to the ceiling. Leave the hand there. Let the vision trace along the ceiling to the front wall until you're looking straight ahead. Let it trace down the wall, through the floor, until you're looking down over the knee and the foot. And then looking straight forward again, and up to standing. Taking your feet together. You're going to bend your knees, shift your weight onto your right foot, and lift your left heel. I'm going to leave the left heel lifted and just work with standing leg balance. So bending and straightening your right knee a couple times. Soft focus, again, like we did earlier, just be aware of how you're using your focus. Not too tense, not too all over the place. And then leaving the right leg straight, we'll work into a little bit of a balance. Now, your balance might be that your toes come to the tips of your toes come to the floor. It could be that your leg comes up a little higher towards your calf. It could be you grab behind your leg, or it could be you grab the front of your knee. Any of those are fine. Soft peripheral vision focus. Let's give that a try. Down to both feet. We'll do the same thing on the other leg. Right heel lifts, left leg, standing on your left leg. Bend and straighten your left knee. Easy. And then leaving that leg straight, balancing tips of your toes on the floor, maybe foot to ankle or calf. Maybe you hold under your thigh. Maybe you hold your knee. And then easy back to off vision. It's different for me on this side. My vision was super tight when I checked in. So sometimes that happens, right? All right, I'm just gonna, my peripheral vision exists. And then down to both feet. We're gonna go through basically the same thing again. Shifting your weight to your right foot, lift your left heel. We're gonna skip the prep unless you really like it, and then you can just do the prep again, bending and straightening. Find your way into your balance. And then if you want a little bit of extra challenge, we're gonna turn your head and look around a little bit. And then back to standing. Now notice I said, turn your head and look around. So that's a vestibular system, right? We've been doing all this stuff with vision. Some of it's been pretty straightforward, but some of it is really just both, right? Turning your head and putting it in different positions is also stimulating and helping your vestibular system. So both are happening. So as you're playing around with these feelings, your peripheral vision, you might even have that image of the inner ear again, right? That's too much. Don't try to put it all in there. But some of you guys, so smart. And sometimes that extra image actually makes it easier to find the other thing. Like maybe the image of the inner ear makes it easier to feel your peripheral vision or have a sense of that. So here we go, other side. Maybe just balance again and work with that peripheral vision idea. And then, like, again, a little slowly, if you want to look around, because things can go off the rails kind of quickly in surprising ways. Just looking around a little bit. And then back to both feet. I mean, there's new information in there, isn't there? At least for me, there was. you just sort of hit a moment where, oh, all of a sudden your balance gets a little shaky. And I know Scott's talked about this before. The wobble isn't necessarily the bad. The wobble is your nervous system trying to figure it out, right? So that wobble is going to bring you into equilibrium. Means your nervous system is not so used to that particular position. So we're going to go one more time. We're just going to go into tree this time. So the knee's going to open up, tree, yoga tree. A lot of times we do Pilates tree. You can take the foot on the calf, you can take it on the ankle, or you could pull it up into your thigh. Take a little balance here. Prayer pose is the traditional place to be. It's kind of nice to have your hands together, a little bit of feedback. And then very often the traditional gaze is down. A traditional gaze is down at the tip of the nose. So you could play with that focus right there. You could shift that to out in front of you, but peripheral vision focus. And then coming down to both feet. Let's try the other side. Shifting onto your left foot. You can turn the right knee out. You could just rest the heel right up on the ankle. It's a good way to start the balance. You could take calf, foot to calf, or foot to inner thigh. Hands on your hips, hands in prayer pose. Hands in prayer pose, I think, is kind of helpful with that, like gaze down to the tip of the nose, because you also kind of get that sense of the fingers in the peripheral vision there. Or option two, out in front of you, finding the peripheral vision, maybe connecting to the inner ear. And then down to both feet. All right, so let's work our way down to the floor. How about we do just a nice little roll down, standing at the top of your mat. Bend your knees. Relax your chest. Maybe your eyes are closed. Maybe your eyes are just soft. You're just not worrying too much about it. Rolling down. And a couple breaths, letting the head really be upside down. What do you see when you're upside down? And then hands to the floor. We'll do a downward dog. An easy, gentle downward dog. Knees a little bent, heels lifted, hands pressed forward, and then letting the head find its position. All the time we say, look back to your feet, give you a place to look. What if you just let your head hang and saw whatever was in front of you? And that might change too as your head changes. It might drop a little more, shift a little bit. And coming down to hands and knees. And coming to sitting. So, we've been playing with these sensory ideas, and there's a field of study called sensory integration, which I am not well versed in, so I don't want to tell you everything about sensory integration. Um, but they play a lot with sensory movements, with vestibular movements, and as the name would imply, right, integrating the systems into the senses into movement. Now, this is just such a natural thing. Um, Such a natural thing that our bodies do. And again, as little babies, you see babies do this all the time. The movement basically is about, I see something interesting and I want to get it, right? I'm going to figure out a way to move. But my vision is so often uh, for little kids, that's how they do what they do, right? They see what they want. They sense what they want. Might not always be sight, but they sense what they want and they go to it. That's just what we do. And then we do seem to get sort of not so integrated as we get older and older. So a lot of sensory integration work is actually done with kids because they haven't quite developed that. Um, but for adults and for us as we age, it can be so helpful to make sure like we have a sense of like everything organizing and helping us move and become more aware. Um, so it's subtle, right? Super muscly, and sometimes it's hard to connect the two. One gets out in front of the other, and you kind of finish, and it's like, well, I'm not sure what I just did. So maybe that happened for you, or maybe you noticed a lot, um, and you could really feel a sense of difference, and it changed your balance. But just to, yeah, like give you a little, I don't know, a little more background or context about what this kind of work is like. Feels different than bones and muscles, right? Because it's the nervous system, because it's the our overall senses and how we connect that to the good alignment work we've done with the bones and muscles already. So really getting more into the body, a little deeper into the body, and the more subtle aspects. So anyway, that is all from me. Scott will be back next week. We'll be back together, and we'll see what happens then. I hope you have a good week. We'll see you then.